This is the Internet Court of Truth and Lies. Its purpose is if you got something in the media that you've seen that you think is the truth, or you've written it yourself, you think it's the truth, or you see something in the media that you think is a lie, then you can bring a dissection of the truth or lie to a group of up to 8 jurors to see how they dissect what you think is the truth or you think is a lie. The result is that everybody sees nobody thinks exactly alike. And often somebody points something out, somebody points out that it isn't the truth the way you thought it was. That's what truthcourt.net is all about. It's a way of finding out how other people are taking what you're thinking. I'm a computational cognitive neuroscientist, and I can tell you with great authority that neural systems are truth engines. This is what living, embodied neural systems, not neurons in the laboratory, are truth engines for Darwinian reasons. Brains were developed hundreds of millions of years ago to enable a species to survive in a world where truth is survival and deceit is death. That's what this whole thing's about. Today, I'm the plaintiff on the trial, and this is a trial called Psematic Defenses. A person who was introduced to me a few years ago, who's been doing a very similar thing to what I was doing, he and I have both said, quite independently, that somatic inoculation is the only way to contain somatic damage, the somatic damage of lies in the media. And we'll define what somatic means. The guy's name is Rand Waltzman. He's approved this article that's written on somatic defenses. For years, we would talk every week. His name is Rand Waltzman, but the company he worked for many years is the Rand Corporation. That Rand has nothing to do with Rand's first name. Rand is fluent in 3 languages, English, Swedish, and Greek. In Rand Corporation, he worked for the United States government. Part of his job was to get people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. He's basically retired now. As a result of that learning, he came up with an idea, which if you go to X, which is what I'm doing right now, and search on Rand Waltzman, you'll pick up a whole bunch of what I call little cards. He's done about 200 of these. I've asked him to get somebody to publish these in a book. I'll just do one at random here, The Goal of Propaganda. This one I'm going to read is Disinformation 101, helping you understand and recognize cognitive attacks and attempts to manipulate you, where a technique for effective misinformation and disinformation has actually worked. His first little paragraph is what I came to believe from my studies of lies. He's also believes from his actual experience with lies, which is helping you understand and recognize cognitive attacks and attempts to manipulate you from an offensive perspective. In other words, the success of such attacks heavily depends on you not understanding and recognizing the attack. If you do understand and recognize, the attack will have no effect. If you don't understand or recognize the attack, you will be manipulated. This one I picked at random, and there are hundreds of these. I call these cards because each one is a little tiny card. This one is goal of propaganda. Get the respondents to take a particular course of action. This is the goal. Many definitions of propaganda postulate that the goal of propaganda is to change the respondents' beliefs or to persuade the respondents to accept some proposition as true or false. But these goals, this is Rand's brilliance, but these goals, although they are typically part of propaganda, are secondary to the ultimate goal, which is always, as a matter of practical politics, to get the respondents to do or abstain from doing something. Secondary goals are always means to action or compliance with action. In other words, the goal is actually to get the respondent to actually do something or abstain from doing something. That's what effective propaganda does. He's disclosing stuff that most people don't know. And this is one of hundreds of these things. Each one is teaching you a little bit more about the misinformation, disinformation experts, what they have learned. The biggest thing that they learned is in agreement with what Truth Court is, get people sensitive to how they can be manipulated so that they're more likely to recognize when they're being manipulated. That's the best you can do in terms of inoculating people against the evil people that are out there. If you want to see all of these, here they are. You can see them on x.com/cogsec. He also has all of these cards on his LinkedIn account, which you can find. Those are the two places he put the cards. I'm going to go back to the trial. We were trying to figure out what to call these attacks. He suggested Psematic. He's fluent in Greek. He pointed out that Sema means lie in Greek. A Psematic defense is how to inoculate yourself against the liars and schemers in the media. Greek is one of mankind's original languages. That's me talking, which is true. Sema means lie in Greek, and Sema spelled as S-E-M-A means plan in Greek. In other words, if you're planning something, it's a Sema. Remember, the Greek is a core language. In English, people scheme. The term scheme comes from this confusion in terms in Greek of Sema, which is lying plan. There you go. I mentioned that mendacioology is a word that I had coined, and I know a little bit on that. I point out how Truth Court works after having shown you how Rand's Psematic attack inoculation works. And both work fundamentally the same way. They inform you of ways in which people tell the truth and lie, and how what they think can be the truth could be a lie, and so forth. My argument is that this is the only way. We know of no other way. By the way brains compute, we believe that once you understand how brains compute, you will realize that there is no other way to do this. The way Rand realized that there is no other way is because he was one of the perpetrators for his working life at Rand Corporation. That's what they learned as well. they learned it without reference to how brains compute. They just learned it as because it turned out to. Is it the truth? I said yes. And I didn't say yes with 100% confidence. I would love to see somebody show me that there's another way to inoculate people against somatic attacks. I'm confident that there's not going to be a drug that selectively makes you smarter without experience. He's trying to do is give you experience, and what Truth Court does is try to give you experience and let you learn for yourself how other people think, particularly about things you might believe are true or things that you might believe are lies. Is it the whole truth? I said yes. Again, this is one of these things where it's true as far as we can tell. We think we've got good reasons to believe it, but maybe we're not right. But to this day, I know of no counterexamples to this. Maybe somebody here does. Is it nothing but the truth? I said 100%. I think that there's nothing in this article that was not the truth as we understand it. Again, Rand has approved this article explicitly. What's the deceit? I said there's no deceit. Is it, the truth is intended? Yes. The motivation is, I believe, to be informative. And I said 90% because I might be wrong and Rand might be wrong, but we don't think we're wrong. Darwin could have been wrong, but he didn't think he was wrong. But he didn't know what DNA was. And it really wasn't until we understood DNA and how it operated that we knew that Darwin was really right. There's stuff that we don't know, but we don't know it. What's the social acceptability of the truth of the lie? I think it's acceptable. If this is true, then this is hugely socially acceptable. This tells you what's wrong with the internet and so forth. What label would improve the social acceptability? I said, this is true. I made it 50%. I said, maybe no label would be fine too. I just don't know. So what I want to do is go through the jurors and for each juror get a 30 or 40-second description of your verdict. Juror one?
That's me, Bob, but Brian had to leave. He is juror 5. You want me to go ahead and read what he had put real quick?
Yeah, sure.
He just said that he wasn't going to have a chance to get too deeply today. Good trial by Robert. He said that he agrees with the premise that forewarned is forearmed. Unfortunately, not enough people care enough to take the time to be forewarned. I have to agree with him on that part about people don't care enough to be forewarned, because it's like they see the warnings coming, but yet they just sit there like they weren't warned and
well,
want to play the big one.
And this is totally agreed. As a teacher, and remember, I used to be a teaching professor. One of the things, the reason people are given homework is to get up to learn for themselves, and take tests is to get people to learn for themselves. You don't learn listening to somebody preach. What Rand has in his things, he will actually give you times and dates of things working that you've never heard of, that you didn't even know happened. And he gives you enough of them that after a while you begin to say, oh my God, this is unbelievable. That's his value. In Truth Court, the reason we don't have a lot of people in the courts is we need to have this kind of dialogue, because everybody who's in the court needs to solve the posed problem for themselves and fill out the verdict for themselves. So at least everybody's thinking about it and learning for themselves. So juror 2?
That's me, Bob.
Hey, Mohammed.
Yeah, so I do agree with you. I definitely agreed with your first verdict, that empower yourself with knowledge. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. That is one of the first defenses.
Yeah,
But
you'll
so
find if you haven't done it, I've given you the place to find Rand's stuff.
yeah,
Pass that around. He produced this set of cards in hopes that other people would read them and learn from them.
yeah, I definitely would read it.
That's yeah, and
Yeah,
so passing these cards around ain't a
thank
bad
you.
idea. I keep trying to get him to let somebody do a book. You could take all of his cards and you could make a book and then sell it, which would be great.
Mm.
It's not that he's against it. It's just nobody knows how to do a book and say, I'll do it for you
Yeah.
or something.
Just two
Uh,
things, Bob, I noticed before you go to the other jurors. Yes, you've invented, I don't know, it looked like you've invented two words, right? So Mendacology comes up on Google. It comes up as a
no,
word you've invented, but not the other one, not
coronium.
Caronia. Okay. Is
So
that
coronium is I came up with that, but then I encountered these guys that did deceit books. They call these outrageous lies or the lies that stick in your brain, you can't get them out. Okay. I still like the word coronium because it was a real word. By the way, in almost every language on the planet, it was a word back in 1900 because
interesting?
back then there was an element, and you can go back and see this in science books in the 1800s and early 1900s, where coronium was the element that was burning on the sun and that only existed in the sun and was the only good explanation for why the sun was so bright.
Hmm. Okay. That's
And then or
fascinating.
something in the 1930s, they figured it was atomic fusion, or actually they originally thought it was fission, and they didn't need coronium anymore. They
Okay.
realized that the elements you could find on the earth were sufficient to create the sun. And so coronium died as a term.
Okay. I Googled it, yeah.
Crazy.
Okay.
So Jura 3,
Yeah, that's me. Yes, no, it's great. I accept everything you said, all your verdicts. But again, you're stressing the fact that this is the only way and nothing else has been thought of. Maybe nothing else has been thought of, but I was thinking the question is about the jurors. You say knowledge when we compared with our trial last week. I think
oh, I'm sorry. When I say only way, another way, there are other ways that are similar to what Rand's doing and what I'm doing, which is, for example, if you go to acting school or you're a writer, mystery writer,
yeah,
you can learn the same things. So there are other ways to learn them, but you will not see is you will not see somebody develop a vaccine that if they give it to you, you're never deceived for the rest of your life.
yeah, okay. But I was just going to stress that knowledge is actually not much of a defense against the lie. It's the weakest possible defense you could have against these lies. The propaganda is good and clever. Knowledge doesn't help you.
Yeah.
So the problem that occurs to me is if you don't have enough, if the jurors are not, I don't know, either not sincere enough or they're deliberately trying to game their system, you could end up, truth court doesn't necessarily produce the verdicts, the trial system doesn't necessarily produce the right kind of dissection of.
And the argument is that no matter what you do in this class of technique, which is just basically enforced moderated dialogue, it's the best you can do because it just is. And so there may be, for a given lie, for example, or a given subset of deceit or whatever, there might be better questions and so forth, but all of them are weak. There is no strong defense. We can't give you a real shot and you will never be deceived again. Just cannot happen.
Yeah, I certainly like the Waltzman's stressing the fact that the point of the lie is to get you to do something or to refrain from doing something, because then that plays directly into what you're saying about consciousness and the validation of your predicates. That's how it acts. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, last May we decided we wouldn't talk to each other for the summer. We were going to start back this week, and then something happened in his house, and we're going to start next week again for our call. He and I help each other. There was a time where Rand sat in on some early trials. I invited him to this one, but he didn't show up, which is not unexpected because of what happened to him this week. Juror 4?
sorry. Can I just say one other thing
Yeah.
about the book? I might well be able to get Gravity Publishing interested in that, but I'll have to do it next week. We can talk about
Yeah,
it.
you and I and Rand can have a call. I need to refresh him on this. It may be an interesting thing. The biggest thing, Andrew, to realize is that he is retired. He's a made man. He's not doing this because he's trying to make money or write a book.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite.
I mean-
So to the extent that somebody can just take the cards and compose it into a book and publish it, he's all for that. But if somebody asks him to edit them, he's going
Right.
to go, I already did that.
I think what the book, as far as I could tell, the cards need some kind of clever formatting to
Yeah,
make them
yeah.
stand out.
And they also need organization because there's no order to them. In other words, these were individual things that he did, and there's no organization. There's not a group A, group B, group C, or anything like that. So somebody needs to go in and organize them somehow.
Yeah.
And that's real work. There's real work to be done there. So Juror 4?
That's me. But overall, I agree with you, but I went on a wild goose chase and it led me back to Mellon and you, which I thought was funny. But what I did, I put your accusation in the AI search on Google.
Uh-huh.
And it said, is this the truth? And it said, according to AI, this is a metaphor. The statement, pneumatic inoculation is the only way to contain the pneumatic damage of lives is a metaphor, not a literal fact. It uses medical and scientific terms to create an analogy about how to address the harm caused by falsehood. But then
Right.
it lists all your points. So then I went to
It's not surprising.
Psematic and all. I can't even say it.
Psematic.
Yeah.
It's just it's Sema. So it's the Greek is
Sema.
Sema. And so Psematic, and it's the underlying word behind scheme.
Right. So then it brings up, when I put that in, it brings up Carnegie Mellon University, which I put that in one of the, which is, it's your work. And then it brings up Medium, Robert, you. So I just thought you'd get a kick out of that because even though AI hasn't caught up with your work totally, it still leads back to you and Mellon. And that guy you mentioned,
Rand.
The Medium article brings up what you covered with Rand.
Yeah, so Rand was also a DARPA director. He was the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency DARPA director for AI, for artificial intelligence.
Wow.
You're talking about a serious guy here. And I actually knew him back in the 80s when he would come and pay us a visit as a DARPA director. And he would tell us all why we're so stupid.
He probably can't reveal a lot of that knowledge, though, can he?
Huh?
He's probably not allowed to reveal what he knows from that work totally, like to the public.
Oh, no, he will never tell you things that are not published. He's very careful. He won't talk about what he actually did at Rand, other than he worked at Rand. And yes, the way he learned this was in learning to do this in terms of actually manipulating how people think or do things. That's about as deep as he'll ever go. The ones he'll talk about are the ones that are known. The ones he won't talk about are the ones that are not known. You don't even get him to go there. So Juror 6.
Okay. I like the explanation in the article. It really describes what truth court is. The vaccine, truth court's like a vaccine, a structured, moderated dialogue among people in their natural language to dissect the suspected fiat lies. So this case is a good advertisement for Truth Court.
Yeah, I think so. And so.
Sure.
Yeah, I agreed with you on this. I just couldn't read the entire article because I don't have a Medium subscription. But I just added there in my verdicts, I said that if you want to stop lies from doing or causing damage, then I do believe that the best way is to basically play defense and mentally prepare yourself. And then you could even try to figure out how liars lie. And if you can do that, you could essentially not fall for their tricks.
So yeah, so Rand and I are agreeing with that. There was that guy that wrote the book on deceit, and he said, no matter how smart you are, you will always be deceived. In other words, you will never be smart enough to be immune to all attacks. Okay. In other words, it just will never happen. And Rand and I both believe that. And there was, because the brain just works that way. It just can't. The brain is not a logic engine. It's a truth engine. It's truth by intuition, not by proof. It can do proofs, but it's just the way in which human brains work. Actually, all neural systems work. They're very good at intuiting truth and intuiting deceit, but all you can do is improve the intuition, but you can't make the intuition always right, always correct. The intuition can be fooled. So juror 8.
Hi, Robert. Okay, I just want to add to what you just said, where the brain will never be, you'll never be too smart to not be fooled. It reminds me of a story here in South Africa about a guy, Thabo Bester, where he actually lured girls in under false pretense of a business deal and actually raped and murdered them. Then he went to jail, and then a doctor assisted him in pretending that he died actually in prison, and then he escaped. And while he was in prison, he actually ran a multi-million rand company from prison. And people actually invested thinking that he can't attend meetings because he's in overseas and he's actually in jail. So now he's got this doctor, which is very high up in the world. She's like an influencer and all of those. He actually manipulated her in such a way where she actually took him out of the country and fled with him until they got caught. So they are now in a situation in court now where she doesn't know why she did that. And that reminded me of him being a manipulator, because how many times he threatened her to kill her if she said anything. So you can never be too smart to be fooled.
Yeah, it's crazy. And and it's something that once you really understand it, you realize it's the reason that dialogue among people is everything. You've got to have dialogue, and it needs to be enforced, moderated. It has to have structure to it, so that what comes out of the dialogue is productive, and more structures and so forth and so on. So this sounds good. I'm going to go on to the next thing. I had mentioned that if you go to, if you go to the Internet Court, if you go to Truth Court, and in the upper right is your username. And if you click on your username today, you will see contributor level. And if you bring it up, it says choose your contributor level. Remember that Truth Court is a venture by Bright Plaza Inc., of which I am not even the majority shareholder. We're not a venture capital company. It's been an R&D company since like 1996 or something, and we've done about 5 or 6 major projects, and the Internet Court of Truth and Lies is one of the major projects. We only really do one project at a time. We try to get the project to the point where it can be self-sustaining financially. Of the 5, we've gotten 2 or 3 in the sense that they created public company spin-offs that made lots of money and still exist today, or got bought later and then they got bought and so forth and so on. So we've had a few highly successful ones. Part of the problem is figuring out how to generate the revenue that can create the sustainability. One of my arguments is it's important to be able to pay jurors and pay plaintiffs and pay moderators. It's not a lot of money we're paying, but we're asking people to do something that they don't just do for entertainment. Okay. Often the audience doesn't like the show as much because they're asked to be actually involved in the show. But so we need to pay people something, and we need to have revenue that actually does that. So this contributor level, we've got 3 of the panels up. There's a 4th one that'll be called contributing sponsor, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. The member level, which everybody's at if they just sign up, is you can get invited to be a juror, or you can run free cases where you don't use any of our services other than just using the website. And so if you're just at a member level, you can be a teacher in a class. Since you've got this juror sitting in the class, you can do a trial, have one of the students be a plaintiff. Other students are basically invited immediately to be jurors, and the teacher can run a trial as homework or during the classes. A member can do that. The other thing is that you will receive invites to be a paid juror. You will also see if there are sponsors for trials, if trials are paid for, that there can be moderator opportunities to be a paid plaintiff. In other words, a sponsor can pay moderators to set times for the trials to run. And if you're a plaintiff, you can pick off one of those times and be paid to be a plaintiff. So that's a member. The contributing member, which is not much a year, it's $25 a year, so a couple of bucks a month. You get all the same things that a member has, except here you can keep a draft of about 5 cases at a time. And this is particularly if you're looking at moderators. We know that a lot of y'all have a number of draft cases sitting there waiting for a moderator opportunity. And so a contributing member, if you pay $25, you at least get that. And we'll also allow you to retry a case, which right now you'll see a member can't really retry a case with the button. With a contributing member, you can retry a case. So you don't get much, but it costs $25 a year. So I've started a bunch of companies and taken them and made them reasonably big. One of the things that I really learned is if you can get your venture to generate any revenue, $1, then you can figure out how to get it to generate $2. And if you can figure out how to generate $2, you can figure out how to do 4. By the time you've done that for the 64th time, you've made billions of dollars. But until you get the ability to generate some revenue, you don't have a viable venture. And so the contributing member doesn't give you very much, but it generates some revenue, and it allows us to come up with ways to get more revenue. It'll also get us ways to pay for additional moderators than the ones that we're able to afford right now, just based on our basic investment. The premium contributor says you can have up to 20 draft cases It's just to being a contributing member, plus you can do more 20 draft cases. This is a change over what we did before, a consideration to be a moderator for sponsors. And we'll also let you add your trial video link functionality. Just as what y'all see with me as a sponsor, I have the ability to put a video link of the trial up on the sponsor page. Hopefully within the week, there'll be a fourth panel that will be called Contributing Sponsor. And here you're not paying a certain number of dollars a year. You're paying for a certain number of trials. And initially, when you're sponsoring a trial, you'll have a lot more control and you're getting our services, but you're providing all the money that needs to be paid out for the jurors that get invited and the plaintiff and the moderator. All that's covered to be a flat rate, $300 a trial. You can say how many trials do you want to buy, and you can buy as many trials as you want to buy up to some limit, which is going to be something like 100 trials. Nobody's going to really do this, but there'll be some limit that PayPal won't let us do anymore. You have to do invoicing and so forth. People will be able to buy whole trials, where a property of that is that you can run the trials and be completely private. So all of these member and contributing member things, whoever sponsored those can decide whether the trials are public or private. If they're public, they will be on the sponsor page. We've got two of those. Here's the Bright Plaza sponsor. And these are all the trials that Bright Plaza has funded. And if you're another sponsor, there'll be a sponsor page for you. And you want your trials to be public. Actually, whether you want them to be public or not, there'll be a sponsor page for you. That sponsor page will either be available on the website in public, or it will not be available on the website. The sponsor page will be available to you on the website as the sponsor, but only you. And you'll be able to do a bunch of trials that are completely secret, completely private, using our membership pool and so forth and so on. So, yeah.
I have a question. It's actually a community question between me and Teresa. Will this affect us as moderators if you get a bunch of premium memberships? And do we need to get the premium membership in order to keep our current position? And I'm just wondering, I would also like to know if we will be able to mod more cases a week, like how we're only able to moderate one case a week right now. Will we be able to?
That's the whole purpose of this. So definitely, if this fourth panel starts getting used and people start paying for trials,
yeah,
they're going to want moderators. All of a sudden, we'll have more moderators time slots available. That's very important to get sponsors.
I'll go up a level to the $25 one right now, and then I'll go the next one.
We have a finite amount of money that we have. And obviously $25 is not the whole way to 300. We're really focused on people to put a little bit of money in to get a few things. And the thing that I wanted to bring up, which has not been decided yet, but is probable, is that if you are a contributing member or premium contributor, we send out invites and then later everybody else gets an invite. If you're a contributing member, it's more likely you'll get an early invite to be a juror. If you've contributed some money to our operation, then we will show you preference in participating in getting paid, and with the intention that you're always paid more than you contribute. Is that clear?
Be invested in the company, putting some money in. That's very cheap, 25 and 40 a year. I thought it was a month. A month would be cheap, really. The 25, I could be monthly.
So we are waiting until you see the third panel, the fourth panel, I'm sorry. There we're asking you for $300 a trial.
It's a worthy investment. We're invested in this already, so we're vested, but we got to put a little skin in the game, as old Bevan would call it.
And I agree with that. This is what my partner is looking for, is people willing to put some skin in the game. We're going to start sending out to the entire verified membership, which is about 1,000 people now, to join as contributing premium contributors. We have a lot of people who wanted to be a juror that have never been able to be a juror, and we hear from them.
Wow.
And privacy is number one for us. So we.
I already signed up, Bob, and it was real easy.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah,
It's very quick.
Yeah.
It's PayPal, so it works anywhere in the world.
So this is live. So I've done it too. So it's all valid connections, right?
This is all live. This works.
Yeah.
Whether you're just buying a trial, the sponsoring contributor has a choice. For every trial he sponsors, he can make that trial public or private.
I can go ahead and do that 40 this week, to be honest. I can actually do the whole 40 this week, I believe.
Yeah, great. The fact that y'all are doing this right now is great. It will really help me raise money. My partner loves this. So I did a podcast on Monday this last week. It went really well. He's a very successful podcaster. Is that he caught on that people in executive positions and in corporations and organizations and so forth could use Truth Court to test how other people are going to take what they're going to say to the 1,000 people who work for them or whatever. This is a cheap way that they can test things to see how other people are taking what they believe is what they're going to make true. Or if they're in marketing, they may want to test things that they think are lies by competitors and see whether or not it's worth their while to run full-blown ads that their competitors are lying, or whether it'll backfire on them. This guy got it. We'll see how this goes. He said it'll take about a week and a half for it to be available, and he'll give us all the link. It's public. I'll get it out to y'all to hear the whole podcast, and it'll be good advertising. That's it. And I really thank y'all to the extent that y'all can go ahead and sign up. You're giving the credit cards, so the money's coming out directly because this is such a small amount of money, and you'll get paid back really quickly with this.
That's what we was discussing. We're already making it back, but
yeah, what we want to do is get people given priority to be a paid juror. And because we've got a lot of people out there who really want to be a juror, and they get the invites too late.
And sometimes it feels like we're getting the same jurors a lot, like we're getting the same jurors over and over.
And you are.
I had the same jurors and plaintiffs.
That also gets solved by growth.
Okay.
So we know that, but we have to grow. In business, a lot of y'all know this one. In business, you grow or die. There's no, you just go along.
Sink or swim, Bob. Sink or swim.
Yeah, sink or swim. We'll see y'all next week, and hopefully I'll have the sponsor thing up by then. But we're going to start, and absolutely, if y'all have communities of people you want to communicate with and tell them about these contributor situations, and with the contributing member and premium contributor, there'll be some little thing that will say that you'll be given preference, early invites to be a juror. We have to work out the details of that, but that's an easy problem. It'll give an extra oomph to why you want to be a contributor, because you're basically helping us out and we're helping you out.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll see y'all next week.
All right. See you later,
All
Bob.
right.